You probably don't think of your childhood as traumatic. Nothing dramatic happened. No one hit you. There was food on the table. You went to school. But something feels off. You're an adult now, and you still feel like you're never enough. You apologize for everything. You can't set a boundary without guilt. You chose partners who made you work for their love, and you've spent years trying to figure out why. Here's what nobody told you. You don't have to be beaten to be damaged. Some of the deepest wounds come from what was never said, never given, never allowed. If you were raised by a narcissist, you may have no idea. And by the end of this video, you will. In this video, we're going to go through the specific signs that you were raised by a narcissistic parent, the behaviors, the patterns, the things that felt normal because they were all you ever knew. This isn't about blame, it's about understanding. Because once you can see the origin of your patterns, you finally have the power to change them. Welcome to MindFrame Lab, where we decode the hidden forces behind human behavior. The first sign is one that's easy to miss, because on the surface, it can look like pride. When you did something well as a child, won an award, got good grades, performed in a play, your parent made it about themselves. They told the story to everyone. They were the proud parent. You were the extension of their image. But here's the thing. When you failed or when you didn't perform the way they expected, the shame was also theirs. And they made sure you knew it. Your achievements were never really yours. They belonged to the family image, to how things looked from the outside. And so you learned something dangerous. Your value is conditional on your performance, that who you are isn't enough. Only what you produce matters. You're probably still living by that rule today, working harder than anyone, never feeling like you've done enough, unable to rest without guilt. That's not ambition. That's a child still trying to earn love. Stay with me, because the next sign is even more subtle and even more damaging. The second sign, your emotions were never safe to express. Not because anyone told you to be quiet, but because when you cried or got angry or showed fear, something happened. The attention shifted. Suddenly, it wasn't about you anymore. It was about how your emotions were affecting them. You learned to read the room before expressing anything, to gauge whether it was safe to feel. And over time, you stopped expressing emotions not because you stopped having them, but because you learned that your emotions were a burden, that they took up too much space, that they made things worse, so you became the calm one, the low-maintenance one, the one who always had it together, and as an adult, you might not even recognize when you're upset, because the suppression is so deep, so automatic, that you've lost contact with your own emotional experience. Narcissistic parents don't always yell. Sometimes they just go cold, or they look hurt, or they make you feel guilty for not being more grateful. The message is the same. Your feelings are less important than mine. But here's what I need you to hear before we go further. Because the third sign is the one most people find hardest to accept. The third sign is this. Somewhere along the way, the roles got reversed. Instead of your parent taking care of you emotionally, you started taking care of them. You learned to sense when they were in a bad mood before they even spoke. You knew how to soften things, how to redirect, how to manage their feelings so that the household stayed calm. Psychologists call this emotional parentification, and it's one of the most invisible forms of childhood trauma because you weren't neglected in the way most people imagine. You were present, you were involved, you were needed, but the need was backwards. A child's job is to be cared for, not to be the emotional regulator of a parent's inner world. And what this creates in adulthood is a person who feels intensely responsible for the feelings of everyone around them, who can't be happy when someone nearby is suffering, who automatically takes on other people's emotional weight as if it were their own. You're probably exhausted, not because your life is so hard, but because you've been emotionally responsible for other people since you were old enough to read a room. That exhaustion isn't weakness. It's the weight of a childhood job you were never supposed to have. One more sign before we talk about what to do with all of this. And this one is going to make everything click. The fourth sign is perhaps the most profound. You grew up without a clear sense of who you actually are. Because in a narcissistic household, you are not raised to be yourself. You are raised to be what the parent needs you to be. The good child, the achievement, the reflection, the caretaker, the extension of their identity. There was no space to develop your own preferences, your own opinions, your own way of being in the world, because all available space was taken up by their needs, their moods, their narrative of who you were supposed to be. And so you became extraordinarily good at adapting, at reading people and becoming what they needed, at being likable, agreeable, useful, but underneath all of that, a quiet question. Who am I when no one needs anything from me? Many adults raised by narcissists describe feeling empty when they're alone, or feeling like they don't have a real personality, just a collection of adaptations. Like an actor who's played so many roles they've forgotten their own face. This is not a character flaw. This is what happens when a child is never given permission to exist for themselves. And the work of healing, real healing, is not about processing the past. It's about learning, slowly and deliberately, to ask yourself what you actually want, what you actually feel, who you actually are when the performance stops. That work is hard, but it starts with recognizing that the performance was never yours to carry. You came into this video not sure if any of this applied to you. And maybe now you recognize something, a pattern, a feeling, a childhood that looked fine from the outside but left you carrying things you were never supposed to carry. That recognition isn't a diagnosis. It's not about labeling your parent or your past. It's about understanding the origin of patterns that have shaped your entire life so that for the first time you can choose differently. You are not broken. You are not too sensitive. You are not too needy or too much or not enough. You are someone who learned to survive in an environment that didn't make a space for who you really are. And you can unlearn that. Not all at once, not without effort, but you can. If this resonated with something you've been carrying for a long time, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because sometimes the most important thing we can do is hand someone the words for what they've been living. This channel is for people who want to understand themselves and the hidden forces that drive human behavior. If that's you, you're in the right place.